Hello everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my booktube channel. It just seems to be the time of the quarantine during the pandemic where I go through and film as many tag videos as I possibly can. I freaking love tag videos. They were part of what got me into making booktube videos in the first place. But I am really finding some tags that, let me tell you, are teaching me a whole lot about corners of the internet that I don't really frequent. So today I'm going to be doing the Dark Academia book tag, which was created by Carolyn Marie Reeds and Emmy. I had no idea what Dark Academia was until about 2 weeks ago. There's a different YouTuber that I watch, her name is Ruby, and she does like sort of study and productivity related videos. She's a university student, so a lot of her like studying stuff is not necessarily super relevant to my life right now, but I watch some of her like productivity and book related videos just because I think they're fun. And she did a vlog that was about Dark Academia, and I had to look this up. This is apparently like an entire study aesthetic for like Instagram and Tumblr that is very based in sort of like Victorian Gothic aesthetics, and also movies like The Dead Poets Society and books like If We Were Villains, The Secret History, etc., etc. I had no idea this was a thing. I am probably way too old to like fully understand and explain what this actually means, but the tag questions were really fun, and I thought that you might like to know a little bit about my dark academic proclivities or whatever. So let's go ahead and do that. So my first question is, what is your favorite academia or dark book and movie? My favorite dark academia book, I'll go with one of the classics of this genre, is probably If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is kind of in the tradition of The Secret History, but instead of being focused around students studying classics, it is focused around this very tightly knit group of theater students that are studying Shakespeare, and they are very close-knit and very isolated from like the rest of their university, and some things go terribly wrong and bad things ensue, and there are mysteries and mayhem and cover-ups, and all with this like very overwhelming atmosphere of like Shakespearean tragedy. As somebody that spent all of my years in college doing Shakespeare in the Park as student theater, studying Shakespeare in class, I live and breathe this stuff. I really enjoyed reading the book. I think it's a good sort of like thriller if you don't like thrillers, because that's kind of where I am, but I like it if I have like a good hook and it isn't super duper gory. So favorite dark movie, though, is 100% What We Do in the Shadows. It's sort of like this comedy mockumentary directed by Taika Waititi about vampires living in Wellington, New Zealand in the modern day, except I think the modern day is like 2006 because the movie was made a while ago, so not quite as modern, I guess, but yeah, it's hilarious. I love it. I watch it more than once every year. It's so great. Number 2 is, what dead poet would you like to have a drink with? So my initial reaction to this is I would love to have a drink with Emily Dickinson. She's not, I don't know, she's not typically considered dark academia from what I can tell, but I think that might be a mischaracterization of her poetry, because they're pretty, like her poems are pretty sly and they can get pretty dark there. I have so many questions that I would like to ask her just about her life and about her writing process and about, you know, if she's like somehow aware of fame after her death, like what does she think about all that? I don't know, like I would just love to sit down and talk to her. It would also be really cool to sit down and have a drink with John Keats, assuming, you know, that like that was safe for him to do with his tuberculosis and everything. I don't know what protocols are there with that, but John Keats, we don't have to drink if that would be bad for you. We could just sit down and talk and I'd be okay with that. Okay, what is your favorite painting and or sculpture? Neither of these is particularly dark. I feel like I'm pastel gothing my way through this tag. My favorite sculpture is The Kiss by Auguste Rodin, which I saw when I was in Paris as a student in 2013. And my favorite painting is Eye in the Village by Marc Chagall. He is my favorite contemporary, like modern artist. I guess he's not contemporary because he has died. And I've never seen that painting in real life, but I really hope to one day. He's wonderful. His art's wonderful. I will leave links to those down below if you'd like to see what they're like, and I'll try and get ones that have like good descriptive text attached. Okay, next is, what is your favorite architectural marvel? Ooh. Is this like favorite ever, or is this my favorite one that I have been to? I'll give you the favorite one that I've been to recently. At the Chihuly Glass Museum, like Chihuly Glass and Gardens, which is in Seattle, there is this amazing room called Mille Fiori, which is Italian for like 1,000 flowers. And it is a blown glass installation of a ceiling where there are all of these different pieces of blown glass laid atop of a glass partition. So there's a glass ceiling with a bunch of different colors of glass all above that, in all different shapes, all different sizes. There's light diffusing through down on the people below. It is like one of my favorite sensory experiences ever, is just like going into that room and sort of slowly spinning underneath the glass and like looking at all of the different like kaleidoscopic colors. You can basically make a kaleidoscope out of that room, and it was so gorgeous. I hope that that counts as architecture. It's art being used to make a ceiling, like a structure of a building, so I think that counts. Number 5, what Shakespeare play would you like to be the lead in? Honestly, any of them. I've never been the lead in a Shakespeare play. The closest I came was playing Malvolio in Twelfth Night. There are pictures of that out there. I'll have to share them when I post this video. But yeah, that was the closest I ever came to having like a major role, and even then he's like a supporting role, he's the villain. But who would I most like to play as a leading part? Probably Beatrice from Much Ado About Nothing, because I love her. She's got great lines. I feel like our temperaments match pretty well. That would be a lot of fun. How many languages do you speak, and which language would you most like to learn? Fluently, only English. I do know enough Spanish to get by in like basic conversations. I am way better at reading Spanish than I am at speaking Spanish. And I can understand, when I hear Spanish, I can understand more than I can actually repeat back in speech. My speaking used to be a lot better, but I just don't really have the chance to speak as much anymore, so I've gotten really rusty. And I know a teeny weeny little bit of French, German, and Italian, because you may not know this, but I was classically trained in opera. And so you have to like learn languages for singing, and you have to learn like appropriate pronunciation and all of that stuff, but I don't really understand that much of what I read. Again, French I got better at reading because I did spend some time in France when I was a student. So like, you're just around the language more, you pick it up faster and it becomes easier. And then obviously I don't speak this, but I did study Latin in college. So people don't really speak Latin nowadays, and I studied classical Latin, which people almost certainly don't speak nowadays because they're all dead. But I still like read books in Latin and stuff like that. I have a really cool like horror comic anthology that's written in Latin that I like a lot. What language would I most like to learn? I feel like the language I'd most like to learn is American Sign Language, because I think that that would basically open up an entire new avenue of communication with people that otherwise I would not be able to communicate with except for via text and stuff like that. I know only a little bit of sign that I have learned from like deaf people at the church that I went to growing up, or from library books and stuff like that, but I would like to learn enough to be able to actually have like a conversation. And then I guess I did learn some sign when I was working in retail, because I wanted to be able to like communicate with deaf and hard of hearing patrons that used sign and stuff like that. So I would just like to actually learn more. What is your favorite quote from poetry, prose, plays, etc.? Probably, let's see, my favorite quote. It's been a long time since I've had to have a favorite quote, but what I put on my graduation cap for college was, "We know what we are, not what we may become," which is like a paraphrase of what Ophelia says during her mad scene in Hamlet, and I love that quote a lot. Yeah, I made my graduation cap with that quote, and it had all of the flowers that she mentions in that entire scene also put on there, so I guess that's my favorite. Let's see, number 8. What fictional character's death is your ideal way to go? Oh, geez. You know what? This might get me some booze, but I probably want to just die the way that Beth March does, which is like peacefully and surrounded by the people that I love. Ideally, I would love to, not die after being ravaged by scarlet fever in a time before antibiotics, but considering that I have already had scarlet fever, that particular way of going seems unlikely for me, but I just mean the more general, surrounded by the people that I love relatively peacefully. That's how I'd like to go. Wouldn't everybody? What university/college would you most like to attend? I am definitely too old to be doing this tag. Well, I did attend the University of Florida, and I also went to Cambridge for a little while in England as part of a study abroad thing. So rather than attending, let's go with a university that I'd like to visit that I haven't yet been to. It's Oxford and also Trinity College in Dublin, because I would really like to see the Book of Kells. Okay. What is your murder weapon or murder method of choice? There we go. This one transcends all age. My murder weapon of choice is the ice knife, because it is quick, silent, deadly, and leaves no trace of fingerprints or DNA, or indeed weapon, because it just melts. Number 11 is, what mythology would you most like to be a part of? This is harder than I thought, but I think I probably have to go with Irish mythology, because that is the background and heritage of my family growing up, and therefore I feel like it's what I know the most about, and so therefore I could make the most sense of being in Irish mythology. It's also pretty cool. There doesn't tend to be quite as much murdering as, say, in Greco-Roman mythology and stuff like that. I mean, really weird things happen, but it would be really cool to be one of those figures from Irish mythology that could shapeshift into an animal and then back. That would be really neat. I think it would be fun. Okay, if you had a PhD, what would you choose to do it on? First of all, I was gonna do a PhD. Second of all, I left that for a reason, which is that I don't want to get a PhD. I don't need to get a PhD, and I think it would be frankly bad for me to get a PhD in terms of my mental health. But it was going to be in English. I was studying early American literature and gender and sexuality. And early American literature in this case is pre-Civil War, but I was studying 1600s, early 1700s American literature. 13. Which fictional character would you die for? None of them? They're not real. As much as it pains me to have to say that out loud, they're not real, so me dying for them wouldn't make that much sense. I know that's not what the question is asking, but it's the answer you're getting. Okay, and then we have rapid fire. Pick one. Leather-bound or cloth-bound books? Gotta go cloth-bound. Very soft, very nice. Dog-earing pages or highlighting pages? I've definitely highlighted more pages and certainly underlined more, so we're gonna go with that. Sculptures or paintings? I don't make distinctions between different types of art. I'm not choosing. Piano or violin? Again, not gonna make distinctions. You need them both. Films or theater? What is wrong with these questions? Oh my god. I'm not choosing. Poetry or prose? I might have to go poetry. I don't know though. Most of what I read is prose. I read them for different reasons. Museums or bookshops? Stop. I'm not choosing. The smell of books or the smell of coffee/tea? I guess I have to go with the smell of coffee/tea because I definitely smell those things more frequently than I smell the smell of books, and it would just be weird if I then ceased to smell those but could still smell the smell of books. Fountain pen or typewriter? Fountain pen. I have a fountain pen or two, actually, that I use for writing letters or writing in my journal and stuff like that, and it's great. I don't have a typewriter. I don't particularly enjoy typing on typewriters, so fountain pen. New or used books? I love books. All books are created equally. I love them all. But in this case, I think I have to go used books just from a personal preference standpoint. Although on the other hand, well, I really like used books because they usually have a life before I owned them, but there are some things that you just can't beat, and like holding a new hardcover in your hands is one of them. It's hard. It's also like when you buy used books, they are more affordable, but the author of the books doesn't see a dime of the money that you spend on a used book. I mean, depending on the publisher and the distributor, etc., they might not see that much from you buying a new book, but they will at least get paid for their work. So, I don't know. It's complicated. It's not really within the scope of the tag. I think the tag is just asking me to pick what I enjoy, and I'm like, but I can't though. I need to explain that this is why the world works the way that it does. Anyway, I'm gonna stop myself right there before I go off on a tangent about book publishing vagaries and inside baseball stuff. But if you like that, or you liked this tag and you'd like to see more of what I do, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because that is the best way to get updated every time I post new videos. If you liked this tag and you want to do it yourself, go ahead and do so, especially if your name is Rachel, Kathy, Rogan, Brody, or Michelle. Anybody else is welcome to do it, but I will leave links to all of their channels down below because I thought that this was fun and I'm really curious to hear all of their answers. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!